Welcome to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin and Sambois.
Welcome back for our next episode. So I wanted to, it's funny, I was going to text you this morning, but I had a email that I got from somebody, and they wanted my opinion about another person. And I was like... So I don't know if you have found this, and maybe some of our listeners are also maybe in this space, but I'm finding that people, I don't know if it's just the energy that's going around or because we've been so siloed for the past couple of years with COVID, but it just feels like I don't think none of us have really thought through, like, now that we're back and engaging with people again, there's a lot of drama and trauma that comes along with that. And so, like, as soon as I got approached about this situation, I low-key instantly felt like I was being, like, set up to be put in the middle of something.
Something messy.
Yeah, something messy. And I'm like, I don't do messy. I'm at an age in my life where it's like I just don't want to be around, like, drama. But I feel like it's hard because whether you're leading or you're, in a corporation or you're dealing with your household, it's just like you can't really avoid, some of this stuff. And I don't know, like, I don't know. I just, like, literally found myself like, what is happening right now? And I feel like I'm being set up to be involved in something that I have no business being involved in. But then I started to think about, like, okay, what's the bigger thing here? Is like,
what's the lesson here?
Yeah, what's the lesson here? And so, like, how do I respectfully tell people it ain't none of my business?
You do it. You're one of the best people, though, I think.
It's none of my business.
But it's a family thing, too. Like, this could have been, let's say, the situation, something with coworkers or peers in whatever place. It's also your family sometimes that brings you into this messiness.
Yeah.
And I always try to say, like, if I say it behind doors, I'm cool saying it in your face, right? Because I think, I don't like messy for that. So if I told you something and you went and shared it and you were not supposed to, then I'm cool to say, yes, I said that, that's what I meant, or no, that's not what I meant by that, right? So when you say stuff, you want to be ready, unfortunately, to have to clear it up if necessary.
Yeah.
I think for the people that are the messy people, I call them the catalyst for drama, you have to have a conversation with yourself. Like, if something was told to you, before you share that somewhere else, like, find what your intentions are. Like, are you doing this because you're trying to cause drama? Are you doing it because, what are the consequences of that? Is it going to bring any type of joy or positive thing out of this that you're sharing and how you're sharing? And also, are you sharing the truth? Because if I tell you something and you go, and we have been in this situation actually before.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, it's a couple years ago. I just remember now.
That was like 13 years ago, maybe.
Maybe.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you tell me something and I go relate that to you, I mean, if you tell me something I go to relate to somebody else, for me personally, I'm only going to say something if I feel like I'm going to avoid an issue, right? But I'm never going to add to it, because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if I'm ever brought into something, like you are brought into something, like you always want to bring you to something. When you brought into this, you have and you did a good job, I think, right, of clearing that up. But you have to be ready to clear it up. And that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Like, and clearing it up, not like because you're guilty, but clearing it up because it's like, this is what I said. This is what I meant. Now, how the other people take it, that's their problem, not yours.
Right. Because I think too, like, so I ended up having a conversation with somebody about the situation at hand, and they pointed out something that I really had never thought about before. They were just like, well, I think because you're typically the connector, they thought if they involved you, it might be a different outcome. And I was like,
if you vouch for them, like,
yeah, like it was like, well, if she said it, then there was like that there was some weight to like how. So it made me think about, like, oftentimes where we get frustrated about, like, well, why are you involving me? Not understanding that people will utilize you or, abuse you just to, push their own agenda, push their own situation. And so when she said that, it kind of really like made me think like, okay, like, I can appreciate that people feel that I'm a connector.
I'm important. That's what a connector.
No,
important.
I didn't think it that way, but it was more of just like, but I also don't appreciate, like, somebody trying to play me either.
Right.
So
Saying
it
things
was
that you
just,
didn't say.
yeah. So it's just like when you're an adult, and I think that's why we have to be very clear about what we say, our intentions and how we say it, making sure that we're not putting anything on social media that we're going to later on regret, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff on social media right now that I'm like, social media is not your diary. Social media is not your journal. And I say that respectfully
Right.
because it's not,
true.
because once you put it out there,
It's not your therapist.
you can't retract that. Like, it's out there. You've said it. You talked about your spouse. You've talked about your colleague. You've whatever you've posted, or it's just like, now, instead of giving yourself the opportunity to process in private, and if you later on decide you still want to put something out, fine, but you've had a moment to really sit with that. Like, we just tend to be so reactionary. It's just like, oh, she pissed me off, I'm gonna write about it. Or he did this to me, like, I'm gonna tell my whole family about it. And it's just like, but now, like, in a couple of weeks, when now you're friends again, or now you guys are back in the honeymoon light, we've already told all these people. And now every time you see these people, you're also going to have to go back and explain and talk about it. And it's like, I don't want to talk about that anymore. But you open that invitation by putting your business out there, or allowing yourself to become somebody's pawn, which I feel like in some weird way, I'm having to evaluate. And this is in my business world. This is not my personal life, but it's also kind of like, as you are moving into new seasons, into new rooms, new opportunities of leadership, be very mindful of how you handle these new relationships, because they are new relationships. Many of the times we're just learning people, and then you're learning people like in short increments, right? Like, you work with somebody or you're on a project with somebody, you don't really know this person. You think you're learning different characteristics and what have you. But I think we have to be very cautious, especially as adults. Like, I feel like when you're young, everybody's your friend, right? And you're just like, this is my friend. I'm like, what's their birthday? Where do they live? I don't know. So that's not your friend.
Oh boy.
And I only said it because I had these conversations with my children, and they're like, but this is, and I'm like, no. But I was also like that. My mom and I used to get into it all the time, because mommy would be like, you always want to be, and I'm like, but this is my friend, and, and I have their back or whatever. And it's like, now that I'm older, I'm just like, I got a lot of associates. I have a lot of colleagues. I have a lot of people that I know. And I think social media has confused.
Well, Facebook has done that.
Facebook started it, I feel like, but then all these other channels, even with Instagram, like,
but their followers are not friends, right? So I love that, because Instagram has a very clear thing. You have followers, where Facebook has called everybody your friend.
So they
and
mess
it should
it
be
up.
Acquaintances, or like high school friends. You know, like, they should be something separate. Like, I know you can create groups, but they mess it up.
Yeah.
Because now everybody, like, I have almost 5,000 people on my Facebook, and sadly, when I meet somebody, I never met you in person, and they're like, I know you, you're on my Facebook. I feel horror because I don't know that person.
Yeah.
I was like, it was so great to see you in person.
Right. Because
Right?
you don't, because we miscategorize relationships
Yes.
based on all of these, like, just these diluted channels of communication.
Yes.
But I say diluted because, to your point, you got 5,000 friends, but I mean, I think you and I talk to each other every single day.
Absolutely.
But how many people do we really talk to every single day, besides like our parents, like our moms, stuff like
our
that?
inner.
Yeah, like your inner circle. Like,
Yeah.
I think I literally probably talk to my sister at least once a day. And it's usually like something real quick, and seldom like once a week hop on a call just to like talk about 20 things just to catch up. But it's like, I don't really have friends. Like, outside of you and I got a couple people that I am friendly with. So if my friends are listening to this, it's more of just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a day to day, like, I'm talking to you every single day. Now I have people that I might not see for weeks or months, and then we link up, and it's like, we never separated.
Those are the best.
Yeah. So I love those kinds of friendships where it's like, okay, you've been busy, I've been busy, we've been knocking stuff out. Let's grab coffee, or let's go to dinner. Like, those types of friendships I value, because there's no pressure involved. And I've had people be upset with me because I don't have the time to be like calling you or with you every weekend, and they're always like, oh, but you're always, and I'm like, yeah, but we built a company and companies together, so different. That's how we have, evolved into this space. But I also had to get to a point where I'm like, I'm not going to keep explaining myself.
I love that you have to explain our friendship to
like,
people.
I don't have to explain
and
it to
nobody
you.
asks me. I'm like, they know. Like, they can ask me nothing. I'm like, if you know, you know.
Yeah, so it's like, so I don't explain anymore. I think in the beginning, because we were working so much and they would see different things on social media, once again, like Facebook or what have you. And it's like, we were trying to build something back then.
But even like then, I think people sometimes fail to see like, and I hate like how people I idealize sometimes like our friendship and our hard work. Like you don't know the tears and the hard thing that has been behind the scenes. Like you see the success and you see the what you call success, and then you see all the things that we have accomplished in pretty much more than 10 years. But along the way in building this, there's a lot of sacrifices that took place. There's a lot of tears that took place. A lot of bloodshed, I like to call it, right? And unless you were there with us, you don't know.
Yeah.
So you can never dare you question like what my relationship to you is, because I'm like, you were not there.
Yeah.
Like, there's things that you know about me that nobody knows, and I'm like, but you had to be there. You had to support me when I couldn't get up. So no, I don't have the. I don't give you the allowance to come into my life and question
me.
who is in my circle and who I rock with.
Yeah.
You don't.
I agree.
And I don't have to explain it to you. That's it. Like that is period.
Yeah, like on that, that's all I have to say about no, because it's true. And I think it's one of those things that as years have gone by, I have just become more and more aware of. Like, I don't have to answer to people. Like, I mean, for me, it's more of like, I don't mind having conversations. And like with my husband, like we have convo all the time. But even he doesn't come at me like, well, you didn't ask me about this or you didn't check in with me about it. And so it's just interesting how
there's a trust thing though.
There is a trust thing. And I think he knows, like, for the most part, like if I've had to do something or invest in something, he's like, oh, she has some type of reasoning for that. But I think that we as, like just in this season, it's okay to create boundaries as far as how much you want to share, how involved you want to allow people in your life. So don't mistake the fact that you're elevating in either your job or your company, that now you suddenly have to open yourself up to all these people. And I think that's been the hardest part for me now in this season of
public life,
where it's just like I meet so many people and I'm a genuine type of connector. Like I want to really be able to connect with people. And I know that like I'm not going to be able to connect with thousands of people authentically in a way that for me, I'm like, okay, this is challenging because I want to be able to authentically connect. And it's like, that's just not practical. So I have to be very tactful with like how I get my message out, how I can empower people, how I can educate people, whether through the podcast or the coaching sessions that we do or the work we do with girls and women at Femergy. Like in my mind, those outlets is what allows me to serve people on the masses.
Yeah.
And it gives me grace to say like, okay, if I can only interact authentically with 50 people a year, then I got to be okay with that.
Yes.
And I get to choose how that engagement happens. And I have to be at peace, but also be intentional in making sure that I'm creating parameters so that people aren't utilizing me or you or any other person
or your
listening.
Influence.
Yeah, to just position you in some mess or drama or like I just think we have to be cautious with our work and our time and our energy, because I don't like to see when people just are like, oh, I know so and so or I've done this and it's like, okay, but so like I mean like respectfully, it's not that I'm trying to be combative, but I think there has become this culture of just because I have met you that I suddenly know you.
I can vouch for you.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works.
Right.
I can't vouch for someone that I haven't seen their work ethic and I haven't seen them perform the job, right? Like that, and that's it. Like I won't do an intro for that. Like that's me, and I had to be really clear about that.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy.
Right.
And I think you have to be okay with it. Like we talk about people pleasing all the time. That phase of my life is gone. So we're not gonna people please. We're gonna serve. We're gonna work hard. We're gonna do the best we can, and we're gonna have boundaries, because the only way we can continue to elevate and help more people is to have clear boundaries about who we are, where we are, and what our impact is gonna be.
Yeah.
And if you have to ask yourself, like, what is my impact gonna be? you know, what are my intentions? So I always wake up with what are my intentions? Like before I come to the podcast, what is my intention? Like any meeting I walk into, what is my intention? Because that's important. What is your intention for anything that you try to do? And then if people didn't read that correctly, that's not on me. That's on them. But I know
Right.
I came from a pure place, and I'm cool with that. I can go to bed nicely at night.
I love that you said that, because it's like sometimes we always want to like justify or explain. And I think sometimes things don't need an explanation. Like, it's not our job to convince people about who we are or what we do. Now, certain instances, if you feel like, no, I really want to clear this up, fine. But I'm starting to get to a space of being like, you know what? I'm not even going to acknowledge that or feel the need to explain or defend, because then also, like, that's the type of energy that can become exhausting, where you're constantly feeling like, oh, I got to explain to people, I need validation. Because I think that is ego driven too, a little bit, not fully, but it's like, I need people to like me. I need people to validate the work that I'm doing. So I feel like I constantly need to be explaining or making sure that they still like me or they still like buy into what I'm doing or saying. And it's like you said, if you know where your intentions are and you know your heart at the end of the day. Now, I also believe in taking accountability, right? Like, if you've done something wrong or you've said something wrong or you've hurt or impacted somebody, then you need to make that right. And you need to, just like you publicly made it wrong, make it publicly right. So that's a different thing. You can never not be so big that you can't apologize or make things right. But I also feel like you don't owe anybody anything in terms of like constantly having to report or explain. But have the power just to own your relationships and own the circles that you're in, whether you want to be in those circles. Because at work, it's a little hard to not be. But personally, you have the power to be like, this is messy, and I'm not interested in being in messy. So, anywho's, I just wanted to share that with you today, and to our listeners too, because I feel like that's been a common kind of thread of conversation I've been having with other people, of just kind of like this telephone thing and all this, you know, the need sometimes to be pulled into directions that you don't want to be pulled into. And how do you reset and refocus so that you're not wasting your energy on things that will not be fruitful or put you in the direction of where you want to be placed?
Yes. And listen to us and reach out to us if you need help. We got you.
Yeah, well, we're still learning, so I don't know that I can tell you any more than what I just said right now, but definitely be okay with just being like, no.
And thank you.
Yes.
And like we always say here at the True Print for Life podcast,
it's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited, and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.